What's up, everybody? My name is Jesse Krause, and I'm the host of Careers Over Beers podcast. Today, I have a very special opportunity to interview two women who are on the front lines of these fights against the data centers and other environmental hazards. Very special episode. If you're anywhere near me here in western Sedgwick County, Kansas, you'll know that data center is a huge buzzword right now. You'll see it on signs, on the roads. You'll hear about it in conversations with your friends. You'll hear about it on social media. So there's a lot going on here. There seems to be almost an epidemic of data centers just discreetly coming into rural communities, buying farm ground, taking over, and people are just caught off guard, don't really know what's happening here. So these two women are experts. They have a long list of credentials and experience in the fight against these data centers, and hopefully they're going to be able to fill me in today on exactly what's going on here, who's doing all this stuff, what does this all entail, and what does the future look like? So thank you two very much for coming out here. I'm honored to have you on today. And without further ado, I'd go ahead and introduce yourselves and let us know who you are, how you got into all this, and we'll roll from there.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. It's great to be with you guys today. My name is Tammy Clark. I'm an industrial hygienist and an occupational and environmental health and safety professional, excuse me, who is struggling with your allergies out here in Kansas.
They're bad.
Yeah, they are.
Trust me, they're bad.
We are both struggling with allergies out
My
here.
whole life.
I don't know what's happening here in Kansas, but so that's our background. We work in the fields of industrial hygiene, like I said, which our career field is designed to anticipate, recognize, evaluate, and control hazards associated with any process, any exposures, whether it be to people, plants, animals, the environment. And so that's how we got involved with this data center fight, because that's kind of our world, looking at what's happening and what are the potential exposures, either in an occupational setting or to the community at large.
All righty. And same thing for you?
Very, very similar.
Very similar?
Yeah, so my name is Kristen Meghan Kelly. Yes, I have 3 first names, but you can trust me. I have worked in a very similar profession, but with military background. I'm a senior industrial hygienist and an environmental specialist, and 9 years of that was on active duty in the Air Force, working in bioenvironmental engineering, which is like the military equivalent of the EPA, OSHA, and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. We're like the evil scientists. No, I'm just kidding.
Evil scientists.
We just track exposures in the military. So I have also done this profession at a large electrical utility company. I've worked in hospital systems, and our profession truly touches every single industry. And we kind of joke that people don't know what we do until things go wrong, and that's why we're with you here today.
And then they know who to call.
Right?
And then they're like, wow, these people actually
Right.
fighting a lot that's coming after us right now. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's how we got involved. We got pulled into it. I always say, we're accidental activists because we didn't go looking to get involved in this fight. But the way that the data centers are coming at people, we got pulled into it and asked to speak on this about the exposures and the really serious negative human and environmental impacts associated that most people don't realize.
Right. So, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I'm not an expert in any of this stuff. I don't know much about data centers other than they store information or compute information, I guess. I know that NVIDIA stock's gone way up because of these data centers, so people have made money off of that. I'm sure they're making money in all sorts of ways.
Oh, Wall Street is truly driving this.
Yeah. It's all about the money.
That's what everything's about, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's what this whole, the amount of money that they're investing in AI alone is astounding. And are they getting any return off of that?
Not
it's artificial, but
not the claimed ROI. So a lot of these farmers, like you guys are experiencing here, is that, as we know, all across America, farmers are hurting. I'm against government bailouts, but if you're going to bail out any industry, it should be our food industry driven by these farmers. And so, they're hurting, and a lot of them are generational farms. And, it's passed down, and they're just hurting. And these companies come in and say, we'll just lease this section of your land for a solar farm or data center. And they promise this, income that will be generated, and it's not what they think, but also it's ruining their other farming prospects, whether it's for food or it's ranching.
Right.
And we'll dive into that, but a lot of people think that they're just harmless, and they think that they're bringing something to their community that's helping.
Right.
And I'm very liberty-minded. I go by the principle of I don't care what you do as long as you don't harm another person or your property. And I'm very, protective of property rights. But you just can't do things on your own property that creates a massive greater hazard for your neighbors. You know, I can't sit there and like, I don't know if you've seen those news stories where they find like people had labs on their property. You know, we don't need a lab
Right.
leak in a
Yeah.
neighborhood. So you can't just do whatever you want on your property if it's harming others. And it's not just people, it's horses, it's animals, it's plant life, it's your whole ecosystem. So
100%. Yeah. I'm very much the same way. To each their own, unless you start interfering with other people, unless it starts harming other people. So
Right. Well, and that's why we have local ordinances, and that's why we have rules, you know, for communities and to keep our society safe and healthy and functioning as we should. I mean, we have property rights as long as they don't infringe on other people.
exactly.
Right. But the problem with the data centers, to touch on the ROI, what Kristen was saying, people think they're going to be getting all this money because of the promises from these tech centers and their lobbyists to elected representatives, whether they're local, community, township, county officials, or state level. They have been very lied to, and they're being promised all these tax revenues, all this income, new jobs. It's a lie because it's not. It does not manifest. And then these farmers and the communities are left with these massive campuses, these massive solar farms, and there's no way to remediate them. There's no, when the company goes bankrupt and the farmer actually finds we're not getting paid or the campuses are abandoned, there's no decommissioning process. Nobody's going to pay for that. And so it's a real problem that our communities across this country are being set up for, and particularly Kansas.
Yeah. So let's talk about that just here locally. So literally right outside the window here where we're sitting. This has been going on where they come in and they're very secretive about it. They approach these landowners and they make them sign NDAs and they promise them lease agreements. What is going on there? Like, you're telling me that they're not going to actually make money off of that? Because I'm sure a lot of these people are seeing dollar signs and they're seeing, oh, my land's going to be leased for a little bit. This probably won't even go through anyways. I'll make money in the meantime. That's a real issue that's going on there. Who's doing all that?
well, these corporations. So also, right, if you look, you have to zoom out and ask yourself when we're talking about data centers, why is there such a huge influx? It's not based on an organic demand. It is based on what we talked about, that monetary, making bets on outcomes and contracts. So Oracle, Meta, and OpenAI have their own contracts where they have to have so many data centers seated in a certain amount of time or there's financial penalties. I'm sorry, but your contracts not being fulfilled, it is not, we shouldn't be left with the burden. And that's the problem, is when you rush into things and you don't stop and go, hey, are we putting this in the right place? Also, is there a better way to do this? You know, just think about phones. I always use this, like, remember like the giant brick phones in the car? Now you have like, my watch is a phone. Technology changes and you can do things with smaller footprints and you can implement different engineering controls to make sure that it lessens the hazards if it can't be stopped. But they're just cutting corners because it costs a lot more money to do these things safer and have better, safer outcomes for communities. And these are very wealthy corporations. So that even makes me angrier because they have the capability of doing this safer. Tammy and I have seen things happening, was it Norway? Over in Europe, they've done this way safer, and then they take like the heat that comes off of these, the thermal dynamics, and they're creating energy. And so if it's gonna happen, find a multidisciplinary approach and review, all hands on deck. Have people in our profession there, engineers, people smarter than me in other areas of expertise, different people in their lanes, trying to work together to have a safer outcome with the same goal of why you need the data center. We're not against AI. I'm not anti-tech. I'm just anti doing things that could be done a lot better.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's what we have seen is that there is almost a shaming of people, and we actually heard it when we were talking with some of your elected officials yesterday. There's a little bit of an underlying, well, if we don't do this, we're going to miss out. We have to hop on this bandwagon. We have to be part of this trend. We have to, gain those revenues and the tax incentives. There's a misleading false narrative surrounding this because, like Kristen said, this is not an organic demand for computational outputs. We don't need the amount of data centers that are coming at us to deal with AI needs. That's just not even a thing. What they're doing is they're trying to make money off of fulfilling contracts, and they're propping up a false narrative selling this economically to people and then almost shaming local officials if they don't jump on the data center bandwagon, your community is going to miss out. And what are they missing out on? Absolutely nothing.
So that's what's been happening right here in Sedgwick County specifically.
Yes.
Is these corporations are approaching commissioners and elected officials one-on-one or in private meetings, and they're telling them, hey, you have these huge tax incentives you're going to get. You're going to generate a bunch of revenue in your county. And they're buying into it
Right.
without even thinking about the needs of the community or the concerned citizens. Or
That's exactly right. And we heard it firsthand yesterday when we spoke with some of them.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and there's just so much gaslighting around this whole issue because, well, we'll get into the human environmental hazards, but for me, so my background is occupational environmental toxicology, and you know this from the military, there's so much hazardous noise involved with Air Force installations, and you have to understand noise and sound is a spectrum. And as people know, you have hazardous noise and you're like, that's loud, it's measured. Audible hazardous noise is measured in something called decibels A. So when I say dBA, it's a certain parameter on this instrument that is measuring sound at a certain frequency. So like 1,000 to 5,000 hertz. Now you have other noise dogs can hear, dog whistles, that's at a different frequency. And when you're dealing with tonal energy, tonal noise, which comes from electromagnetic frequency in extremely low frequencies, it causes vibration. And even though it's noise, let's just call it tonal energy. That is measured, with that unit of measurement, you have to use a function called dBc and dBz. And the biggest thing that I see when I go to these presentations from these corporations is, it's not loud, it's 55 decibels at the fence. And and you might know this from your military experience, when something's over 85 dBA, hearing protection action level, it's not the same. And the way that I describe it is, if we are talking about how many lumens or how bright the sun is, if you have, your Ray-Bans on and you're like, it's not that bright, well, take them off. And you're like, it's because it's filtering out. So when you are claiming that it's not a hazardous noise, it's not noise we need to worry about, it's because you're not actually, you're filtering out that tonal energy. But what this tonal noise does is, when we are evaluating hazards in an occupational setting, all the data is based on an 8-hour exposure. These data centers are running 24/7. So what does that do to your body?
Yep.
It increases your cortisol levels. It puts your brain and your body in constant fight or flight mode. So when people say, I visited a data center and it's not loud, okay, bro, get an Airbnb and stay there for 30 days because you are going to have increased stress levels. It can cause cardiovascular issues.
Your whole nervous system is
Yes.
like, whoa, what's going on
And people
here?
who never dealt with anxiety, it's like constantly living with like anxiety. And you may feel like, oh, my head, I can't hear it. But your brain is trying constantly to filter that out. And it's torture. And, tonal noise has been used as a military torture
Oh,
technique.
for sure. Yeah.
So, maternal fetal health, an expectant mother, stress response. It can increase maternal fetal heart rate, so the heart rate of the mother and the child, which can cause early term labor, affect birth weight. If you are an elderly person with a pacemaker, it can disrupt that. Elderly people also they already have stress responses in their body. I'm sure you've seen people say, oh, your stress is gonna kill you, calm down. Well, even if you're not stressed out, your body is. Does that make
100%.
sense? So tonal noise, you feel, hazardous noise, you hear. And the tonal noise we could talk about for 3 hours, but to me that's the biggest hazard and you can't escape it. It's really, really
it's kind
bad.
of like you were talking about with lighting. Lately, I've been in this rabbit hole of like LEDs versus incandescent and the spectrum of light there, and how LEDs actually do affect your nervous system, from what I've read, a lot more than incandescent bulbs, which have a much broader spectrum, like with infrared light involved and everything like that. So that's just another stressor. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like people don't even recognize it. Like why is my anxiety so high all the time?
Well, I'll just close it out on this issue of your ranchers, your farmers. What does tonal noise do to animals? If it's a dairy farm, you're going to have lower milk production because it's making them not want to eat. The feed is lowered. And I guess the best way I can say it is it lowers their libido. They have no desire for their mating cycles to continue. And they can also bang their heads on the fence because it affects their mental health. And animals are way more sensitive to this. You guys, I know when I was stationed in Oklahoma, Tornado Alley, the animals can sense the storm systems moving in. They can feel things before humans do. They're way more hypersensitive. So if you're someone that needs like good meat quality on your cattle or dairy production, it's an economic loss for these ranchers and these farmers because it's disrupting their health and their immune function.
And that's just because these things are constantly running? Is that why they're generating so much noise?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, basically. And what we are concerned about here in Kansas, like as we sit and look out the windows, like you were saying, all around us, what is proposed here, where we drove yesterday and we did a little tour of where they're proposing one here and one here. They're clustering them around your towns. And these are not small data centers that are being proposed. They're massive. So when you have that many that close together, within just a few miles of each other, the light pollution, like you started talking about, looking into that, the light pollution and the noise that's going to be running 24/7 is going to light this place up like New York City. You guys will not, in the middle of the night, you're going to have plenty of light in your homes. I mean, it's going to be like a city at
Property
night.
values just tank.
They're going to tank. And the noise issue is a serious health issue. The light pollution is as well because it disrupts sleep cycles. It disrupts your circadian rhythms, and so people are
Right.
couple that with that tonal noise and vibration that people aren't necessarily hearing, but they're feeling. You're going to have some very serious health issues here around here, and we're very concerned about that, especially because this is the heartland where our crops and our livestock are. I mean, the whole country, the whole world relies on Kansas and the Midwest. And what they're doing and what they're proposing in the name of winning the AI race is absolutely irresponsible and dangerous.
So the AI race, you're referring to like the global race to have the best form of AI?
Right. Yeah, we listened to Kevin O'Leary. I'll just name names. We listened to Kevin O'Leary, who just is doing this huge 62 square mile acre data center in Utah. And he was calling out people, which is why I'm naming his name. He was calling out people. We listened to him yesterday who were standing up and they were against this and saying, this is not good. This is not healthy. We don't need this. And of course, he's in it to make money. We all know that because we know who Mr. O'Leary is. I have no problem with him. Personally, he's probably a really great guy. But he does not understand the negative human and environmental impacts. And when people were standing up, he was reading people on X. It's all over X right now. This is like one of the number one conversations in the country. When they were talking about the reasons they're against these data centers, he was actually accusing them of being communists working for China. And we listened to this like, okay, so that's the approach we're going to take now? If you're not for these things, then you must be for China because we have to win this AI race. And we're like, whoa, these data centers are not needed like this to win the AI race because this is not about computational outputs. It's like Kristen said, this is not an organic demand.
So he's just grabbing terms that gain, it's any other term that people use now
Yeah.
just to gain traction for
Yeah.
insulting or to,
Basically, they're saying you're not an American if you're not for these data centers.
And he
What?
absolutely omits the reason. He just basically said, you don't want this increased computation. Hey, guess what? We're not against that. Let's find a better way. This
Yes.
is ginormous.
Yes.
And you're just omitting the human and environmental impacts. And he's like, we're not using your grid. We're creating our own power source. We're going to sell it back to you. Okay. What about the tonal noise? What about the water use?
Right.
And
We were just dying listening to this, like
again, the gaslighting. It's like,
total gaslighting.
I feel like I'm still surviving my narcissistic relationship.
And he has no idea about the human and environmental impacts, and he has no idea. Of course, he doesn't care. He's making money off of this. It's
he doesn't
about
care.
money.
He has a private ranch somewhere where he's away from
Yes,
everything.
Right.
Is he still on the Sharks? Because I feel like we should go on there and propose like alternatives to data centers.
We have alternative systems that actually
Yeah.
work. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they're targeting places like Kansas because we have wide open fields. We have a good water source probably for cooling
And your aquifer.
our aquifer. And then, the energy source sounds good. We'll make our own power plant so it doesn't raise everybody else's prices. But then they have to build a power plant too next to us.
Yes, and we noticed that you guys have massive substations. Not only do you have these transmission lines just for miles and miles, which create their own issues, but then you have these massive substations peppered all over the place. Then we're going to have solar farms and data centers all clustered together. And we're looking at this as one very serious human and health concern.
So I have to tell you something kind of funny. Like Tammy said, this is the number one issue on X right now. And on the way here, she was driving, and I was looking up I was responding to the questions people had, and they were asking me what are the human and environmental impacts, and I explained that in the insomnia and all the issues that I just explained. And somebody like tagged Grok and said, "At Grok, is she correct?" And I also talked about your cumulative exposure because you already have so many overhead lines, and those lines emit the ELF and EMF. If you've ever stood under a power line, not that I recommend it, but you'll feel that hum and it's like uncomfortable.
Yep.
And so I said, oh my gosh, they already have all these overhead lines, plus you have all these like substations in your transformers. See, tonal noise, I guess I should have explained this earlier, it attenuates. So like if you are playing music on your phone and you cover the speaker, you lessen it. Tonal noise, it's gonna go right through my hand and it's gonna bounce off. And I always use the acronym of like Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, a little Sonic when he's in his multi-speed mode, that's tonal noise. So if you, let's say you had a data center right across the street, as soon as the tonal noise hits this facility, it's going to ping and it's gonna find cement and it can go through like compacted soil. So it just keeps going.
It just keeps
and
traveling.
it keeps going. So I explained on X, you know, this area, site specific, you can't say every place be 10 miles away. Everyone asks us that. We can't tell you a safe space because every site is different. So what I'm getting at is I said all this and someone tried to correct me by using Grok, and Grok was like, she is correct. Kristen Meghan Kelly is an industrial hygienist. I'm like, how do you know this about me? And it went, she's correct, and it does this to maternal fetal heart rate, the compounded impact exposure of your existing lines, and I was like, oh, okay.
Thank you,
All
AI,
right.
for the verification.
So I was like,
Exactly.
how'd that work out for you, buddy?
So it's important to know that you're not against AI.
No,
I mean, I
right.
see all these things online, and it's like every time that you ask ChatGPT a question, you're dumping out 3 water bottles or something.
Exactly. That's
that
what people,
true?
That's what people do to us, and we are not against technology. We're not trying to stop progress. But what we are saying, because it is our entire, the whole reason that our profession exists is to help people figure out how to do things safely, responsibly, to reduce or eliminate hazard or exposures, right? So what we're doing here, the way we're doing this in Kansas, like Kristen explained with all the lines and the substations, we are creating this cumulative exposure from all these different sources, and we look at it and say, okay, how can we do this? If we know we're not going to put AI back in the box, it's here to stay, and we use it, we're not against it, how do we do this? So the siting, number one, the siting of the locations is the most critically important thing that we need to look at. It needs to be away from communities, away from farms, animals, livestock, anywhere that it could cause harms, negative, very serious health hazards from the exposures. And then we look at how do we reduce the noise? How do we reduce the light pollution? And then we look at the water consumption. There are alternative cooling systems out there that do not use water, but they're much more expensive, and the systems are much more expensive to maintain. And so when you have legislative bodies who are being deceived, and they're just falling for what these technological, their lobbyists, the companies, the reps and the lobbyists are telling them, they're basically handing the keys to the state and the aquifers over to these companies. So why would they ever think to spend this kind of money? And we've heard it. We've watched some of the testimony here from Kansas, and one of the representatives from Google said, when, I don't even know if it was a state rep or Senate, which committee we were listening to, he actually asked the Google representative, so if you don't get these tax subsidies and these tax breaks, he said, we'll go somewhere else. There you go, right from the horse's mouth. So that's why we're telling people, don't give them corporate tax subsidies and tax breaks. They don't need it. These are billion-dollar companies.
Exactly.
You will chase them away just by that. Unfortunately, the damage has already been done. So many of these states have already given them these tax subsidies, so they're coming in. And now, Kristen and I are saying, how can we help you to find the proper locations when these backroom deals and NDAs are being signed by your local representatives who are not representing the people? They're acting with self-interest because they're clearly getting something out of it.
That's the weird part is there's no transparency here. It's all
None.
being done behind closed doors.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden one pops up and everybody's like, whoa, what's this? What's going on here?
Exactly. So from our perspective, we don't want to stop technology. We want to manage it so that we always stay in control. Because when you're in a proactive position, you're in control, right? When you're reacting, like we're all right now finding ourselves in a reactive position because this has been going on for years. It's been being planned behind the scenes for years. And when they finally roll it out, because they have all the pieces of the puzzle together, we're scrambling now because we're in a reactive position. We're not in control, and we are doing damage control basically. So, I'm not saying that to discourage people, because we have successfully stopped 50% of all new data construction,
Wow.
data center construction that was slated for 2026, just by the people
Really?
standing up and being loud and disruptive and saying not in our communities. So it's not too late, just because the deals have been signed, just because the ink is dry, just because they have the land. They are still announcing every day. We're hearing, now we're backing away, we're pulling out of this one.
So we still do have the power to stop these things.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
not-
and they're
Yes.
unseating and recalling board members and commissioners, and the recall efforts. We had a situation with a battery plant that we helped stop. The entire board, what was it, county commissioners or town
Yes.
supervisors?
Township.
They all the township people, the whole slate was completely replaced.
We recalled all
Wow.
of the board members who did these deals. So we've seen
You're
it.
fired.
Yep, that's right. We're like, and so that's why when we're in, some of these meetings and we have these legislators listening, we'll point them out and be like, you should be very nervous right now for not listening to your
Look what happened
constituents.
to the last ones we went
Because we
after.
have recalled board members before, and if you don't listen to your constituents, your job is on the line.
I think another reason why these are catching people so off guard is because data centers have been a thing for a long time now, but the data centers that we're talking about are a lot different than a traditional data center that just
Correct.
stores.
Yes.
A lot of cloud storage data centers, I mean, you have hard drives in a rack, you have
Yeah.
data just sitting there. That's very different than an AI data center that's constantly computing, right? 100%
and we've had
power.
cryptocurrency
Yes.
mining for a long time.
Cryptocurrency mining is another example, yeah, where those video cards and those drives and servers are constantly running. And that's why you get all the noise and stuff. Am I right on that? Or
Yeah, it's from the fans, the cooling systems. You have the diesel generator testing, and transformer. Like I said, the tonal noise is creating. By the way, when you have the hazardous noise that's created inside the facility, so it may be 55 dBA at the fence, but the hazardous noise inside of the facility mixed with the tonal noise created from all of the equipment, it creates something. It's a measurement of total noise. And it actually exacerbates the tonal noise.
Of
it actually
course.
launches it like a slingshot.
Yeah.
So speaking of locations, then are there ideal locations for this? I just wanted to touch on a couple things that I've seen. I don't know if this is fake or not, but I've seen things about China building data centers under the ocean, underwater.
Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, that's real. And then they're geothermal cooled. And then they can use that energy that's captured, the heat that's released, turn it into energy to power something else. So that's a really great.
See, that's genius.
It
Instead of
is.
pulling water up, put it in water.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
But again, it's more expensive. So the siting of this, we would say, when we first got into this, I said, listen, you're never going to truly, I don't think, eliminate or reduce all hazards with these things. So then the goal is to eliminate them, to most significantly reduce the exposures. So take a place like a Superfund site or a brownfield that's been abandoned. There are, abandoned industrial sections of cities that are nobody's living
Where
there.
people can't live
Nobody's-
because of health reasons.
Yeah,
Like
so
Fukushima.
Fukushima, Chernobyl.
right. Look at places like that where you're not going to be harming people by the operations. If you're not going to utilize the proper engineering controls to use systems that don't create as much of a hazardous output, well then you need to site them away from
Put
humans.
it somewhere where
and-
nobody cares.
Right.
Put it
Yeah,
on the moon.
and they are proposing, despite some people thinking this is a crazy idea, they are proposing putting them in outer space. You have 4 different companies that are trying to work around the technology to make that work and actually have them at a lower scale. And then you do have places that are already using this, and they're taking that excessive heat, because that's another issue we need to tap on. That excessive heat is then recreated to heat hotels in other areas, and they put them underground. So, I mean, you might be killing moles and voles. Can't say I'm sad about
Helping
it.
your
The ground people.
Right.
People think aliens live under.
The mole people, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they are going into outer space soon, and I know some people think that's dumb. I
Yeah.
was called dumb for saying that yesterday, but actually it is happening. It's already happening.
Is it really?
The systems are already being designed and built, and they're very different than what's being built on terra firma. So within just a few years, these data center executives will tell you, oh yeah, within just a few years, everything's going to be in outer space anyway. So that's why we say, what is the rush?
See, that's
Slow
a
your
massive
roll.
problem. And then you end
Yeah.
up like all of these data centers they're building around here then they decide it's a much more efficient and better way to put them in outer space. And
That's
then all these
exactly
buildings
right.
are just sitting here.
That is exactly what I have been warning people about, is the decommissioning process is not being addressed on the front end, pre-construction, and now these communities, think about if they put up all these data centers, in a few years, they're all abandoned and they're in outer space. What is this community in this county going to do with that?
Destroyed.
There's absolutely no way financially you could possibly remediate that and turn it back to original farmland.
It's
for
ruined
use.
at that
It's
point.
ruined.
Yeah.
It's totally ruined.
And the soil compaction, because I know we're talking about data centers, but it's the same thing with proposed solar sites, is that once those solar panels are down there, it compacts the soil even further. Well, you guys have flatter terrain here, but it can, if it's regraded, homes like in other states, like homes that were not in flood zones can now be in flood zones. And even when those are ruined from hail or a tornado coming through, they cannot ever farm on that land again because you've already just ruined the soil. And once the soil is so compacted, trying to till that back up, it's easier said than done. Not to mention that if there's damage to a lot of this equipment, you have stuff that's leached into the soil and you can't grow crops there and you
Yeah.
can't have cattle there.
I did want to ask you about that as well, because we had a big fight against solar around here too a few years back. And I'm not an expert, obviously, but I did hear that they kill everything to put those solar farms in. They don't want weeds growing up, obviously. They don't want anything growing.
Right.
So I don't know what they use to do that, but it ruins the soil from what I hear for a long time. Probably.
Well, there are forever chemicals that are leached, not just from that, not just during the pre-construction phase, but when the solar panels leak, and they do leak, don't let them tell you they're indestructible. We've seen it in Michigan. We've had tornadoes rip through Michigan, hail, and all that leaching. In Ohio, they had a huge solar farm that was, same thing happened. So now you have forever chemicals in the soils that cannot be remediated. It will stay for generations, and we're talking about things like dioxins and stuff like that, that very, very small amount, and Kristen can expound on that, can cause cancer.
Not to mention that you'll be told that, these solar panels they don't reflect light. And they do through something called secular reflection. So if you kind of think the rectangular aspect of a panel during sunup and sundown, it's collimating on one part. And that reflection can melt siding on a home. I mean, I don't know if you guys have... Yeah, you have siding.
Well, yeah.
It can melt siding on a home. It can literally
Just how distracting
bring-
it is. I mean,
Yes.
It
being
can bring
around
a bird down from the sky. If you're driving and commuting in the morning and coming home, it can cause damage to your eye. It can cause you to veer off the road. So, and we're not talking about like the kind that people put on their roof. I want to make it clear that solar panels that people have at their homes are completely different. I have no issue with those. But
You're not against solar.
no.
No.
You're against
Right.
destroying fertile farm ground for solar
Yeah.
farms.
And
Because it's irreversible damage. That's what we're concerned about. the
industrial
human-
versus residential. And that's
Yeah.
another thing about this whole issue is that when we talk about, because there's way more hazards we haven't touched on, but all of this, like I told you, data is based on an 8-hour work cycle. The problem is we're taking industrial exposures, putting them in residential, and acting like it's okay. So, hey, when you go to work, just so you know, if you're using a certain solvent and it's carcinogenic and it's a volatile organic compound, it's dangerous in your workplace, but in your home, it's not.
Right.
It's just there's
That's
no
just
regulations.
crazy.
So you have
It is.
OSHA in the workplace, but who's protecting us?
Yeah.
It is
Your
crazy.
community public health departments are supposed to be stepping up.
But it's the
Where
same
are
thing they do with food and ingredients in our food.
Right.
That other countries like Europe,
Yeah.
they
That's right.
they label things as toxic that we allow in our food system, and that's because a lot of our studies that we base it off of is like a single dose.
That's right.
And a single dose of arsenic or whatever it might be is probably fine. But when it's cumulative over time, it builds up in your system.
So
It's
that is called synergistic toxicity. So it's when you have a certain toxicant or hazard. So just so people watching this understand, a toxin and a toxic. Actually, I had someone tell me a toxicant wasn't a thing, and I was a fake scientist. Yes, it is. It's more of man-created, altered, industrial-used chemicals. So the toxicants that are used, and they attack the same target organs, that's synergistic toxicity. So you might be breathing it in here, ingesting it here, absorbing it here, and it all attacks, say, the liver. Even though, like, it comes in a small dose. Yes, but I'm going to get here, here, and here. That synergistic toxicity cumulative dose.
yeah, and that's an important distinction to make, and that's why they get away with a lot of this stuff,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because this 8-hour window, it didn't affect anybody in our little
Yeah, they
short
love
study
us.
that we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy, and we're very, very concerned. So, we don't really want to be traveling the country and blowing the whistle and calling people out, and it's not easy, because we get really attacked for what we're saying.
Oh yeah.
But this is it. But honestly, we would not be abiding by the ethics of our profession if we didn't say these things and warn people, because that is what we are. That is the whole basis of our profession, is keeping people
protection
safe.
of- yep.
It's community public health, right? And so we're sitting here like, where's the rest of the people in our field, in our career field? Where's OSHA? Where's the EPA?
Anytime there's massive dollars involved, it gets really strange,
Yes, and we've seen it for the last
Yeah.
6 years.
Yeah, it gets really weird. And
Yeah,
the
Follow
attacks,
the money thing, it's a real thing. And
Yes, it is.
you just mentioned tax. I'm very anti-tax, but
oh yeah?
yeah, taxation is theft was in my wedding vows. But
Don't get
No.
her
Thank
started.
you.
Yeah,
But
right.
if we're pretending that we care about that, you're decreasing the property values. So you've already given tax breaks to these facilities, and now the homes nearby, when you lower their property value, you get assessed on your value of your home. And now you're going to collect less property taxes from the homes near the facility. So you've actually lowered the revenue. So all these people in government that are like, it's all this revenue that's coming our way. Well, you're not talking to the right economist. And we actually were on a panel in Virginia with an economist, and he really broke this down. And that's the great thing about what we're doing too, is that we do run into other people that are in a totally different profession that can bring something to the table. Like we met a geophysicist, a geologist that explained, just so you know, the most impacted state is Virginia. I believe they have 1,000.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, they have a
in
lot.
Loudoun County, Virginia. They started there. They were on the forefront of this, very targeted. Yeah.
It's just so short-sighted. And
It is.
living here in western Sedgwick County, Kansas, where we have some of the most fertile farm ground in the nation. We feed America and the world. It's just such a bummer that they would think about replacing all of that with solar, killing the soil forever, or building these data centers. One question I've always had is, why don't they build more solar farms like on top of buildings? And
I'll tell you why.
why?
Because when they want to put solar like on top of buildings, they know that the companies going in there actually have to deal with more attention in the news because it's more visible. And then the county commissioners, like in those cities, have more questions and pushback, and it's all about speed. Who is going to oppose us less? It's people with weak zoning regulations and, people that can be bought and have NDAs. But you also have to consider, like I told you, there actually is secular reflection. So can it impact, planes, and how does it go with the FAA? But, I used to work at a VA hospital, and they were trying to put a windmill on top of under Obama's Fed Green initiative, and that's part of the reason I resigned, because I was like, this is a scam.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you can't put a windmill on top of a hospital in the middle of downtown Chicago. So there is ways to do that. Like parking garages, I think would be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have these massive areas. If you just fly in a plane over a city, and you'll see all these giant sections of concrete or whatever. Like, why aren't they just filling those with solar panels? But it makes sense. They want the place that has the least amount of opposition, and it's hidden
Yeah,
away.
and like I said, the visibility.
who's
they're not
driving out
seeing
on
it
this
every
random
day.
dirt road looking at the solar farm, except for the farmers around it that are bought out.
And they feel like, and in many ways they've been right. They feel like Kristen said, they target where there's weak zoning, and they know that the people, the average person, the average farmer, they're just busy trying to make money and raising their families, and they're not educated on all of these things. And so when, a real slick salesman comes around and promises them millions of dollars and all of this, they don't know, and they think it's perfectly fine, and they don't have the technical scientific background to be able to have an intelligent conversation about this, and so they're easily swayed. And they don't realize that they're causing harm to their community by selling their land to something like this. If they did, I don't think most people would do it.
A lot of them are actually deceived too from,
Yes.
from just people around here that I've heard stories about. They're told this is just a temporary lease and it's probably never going to happen.
Right.
So it's like,
right.
okay, whatever, I'll make money in the meantime.
Right.
They don't think it's going to happen, but that's just all lies. It's
Right.
Well, don't play Russian roulette with the health of your community.
No, right. And that's, and I think, I have to give people a little bit of grace, because there has been a lot of buyer's remorse over some of the people who have sold. And there's been a lot of, I think, disruption of relationships within family members and communities. But when you look at it, those people didn't realize, like, they're older, they're selling their farms, they're done farming, maybe their kids don't want to buy the farm anymore. And so, some salesman comes around offering them $10 million, and they think, well, okay, I guess it's progress, it's development.
Generational wealth.
And yes, right, and they don't realize that these particular types of facilities cause so much harm, and they're very different than putting up a manufacturing plant. But they don't know that. So it's not like they're doing anything with, ill will or ill intent. If they really realize, most people, how seriously these centers were going to negatively impact their communities, I don't think most of them would do it. And we're starting to see farmers pushing back all across the country. You're seeing stories almost every day in the news now. Farmer family turned down $25 million for a data center to purchase their family farm, because people are getting educated. As we're speaking out about this, and as people are becoming more educated and aware, more and more people are refusing millions of dollars just because they understand
It's amazing.
harms that will
And
come.
I have a daughter in college, almost 22, and I have a 10-year-old. And now that she's getting older, my husband and I wanted to go buy land because we're in a neighborhood and build a barn dominium. And it's like, I don't want to go build outside of a neighborhood now because I might be comfortable for a year or two, and then all of a sudden they slap a solar farm or data center next to us. It's like it's affecting the whole economy because they don't want to move, they can't move. I mean, if there's one that goes across the street, how are you going to sell your house?
Exactly.
Yeah, there are whole communities there. We have stories of communities and whole neighborhoods that have had to walk away from their homes after a data center has come in, or battery or solar farm, whatever, you name it, they're all kind of the same. And they have not been able to sell their homes. So but they couldn't stay there. They couldn't sleep there because the whole family had to sleep in the basement because the noise was affecting them. They had so much insomnia. So they had to leave, but they couldn't sell their homes. So they're literally walking away from their homes.
It's broken windows, cracked windows.
Yep.
I just saw on X earlier, that's where I read about someone was adding up all the data centers in Virginia. Showed a woman who actually had to pour like bottled gallon water into her toilets because she had such low water pressure that when they went number 2, the toilet would not fully take the waste. So, I mean, this is ridiculous that every time you use a restroom, you have to add in your own water. And we saw when we were in Virginia, first of all, that geophysicist, geologist was actually showing how dried up the aquifers and wells were. And people were explaining the rates of the water coming out now versus how it was a few years ago. And they have zero water pressure.
And they're being told, we have massive droughts across the country. We've been in like a 2 to 3 year drought cycle. And I mean, weather is cyclical, so it happens. But this is not an ideal time to be sucking the aquifers dry when we already have massive droughts. I was just reading an article in Texas. People are being told not to wash their clothes, to use less water. Don't leave your water running, because the data centers are consuming so much more of the water during drought seasons, and they have no water pressure. They can't use their water as they normally would. This is just so ridiculous.
Which is really important for the people of Wichita that are listening to this or learning about these data centers, because we've had so many water restrictions over the years just from local droughts that we've had.
Yep.
Cheney Lake Reservoir is where their main water supply is from. And so they might think, okay, this is out in the country. It's out in these small communities. It's not really going to be around us. We don't really care too much. Or people that are on the commission or whatever. But in reality, like, their water restrictions, you want to water your yard still? Do you want to be able to flush your toilets? Things like that. It could affect them massively.
Very seriously.
They don't realize that.
Right. You don't have water, you're not going to survive for very long. So when we're talking about messing with our water supply, our fresh water, this is a very serious issue that affects all of us. And people need to realize, because these data centers are lying to people saying, oh, we use a closed loop system, so don't worry, we don't use any water. That's just a flat out lie. There is no such thing as a closed loop system when it comes to water use.
Yeah, let's talk about
Yes, let's talk about the gaslighting.
Closed loop system. That's something that I keep hearing. And they say, oh, don't worry, the water stays in those tubes forever and it never comes out and we're not going to use any water. Is that a lie?
That's a lie, if they're using water at all. So they'll tell you, oh, we use alternative cooling systems. So then you have to ask them, what alternative cooling system? And most of the time the answer will be glycol, because it's cheap and it's accessible. Glycol uses 50% water. So if it's a glycol alternative system and they're claiming it's closed loop, that's a flat out lie. That system is always picking up water to replace the evaporative cooling process. So yes, they might use less water. Maybe they're not using 5 million gallons a day, but they might be using 2.5 gallons a day. I mean, don't let them gaslight you and lie to you like that. Now, there are, like we talked about in the beginning of this show, truly alternative cooling systems like dielectric systems that are not conductive, so they're great for submerged electrical components, no water use at all. But then mineral oil would be the only one that would be safe because it doesn't have a negative impact on the environment for disposal processes like some of the synthetically engineered systems like 3M is making right now. So they do have alternative cooling systems. It's just that they're expensive. The systems are expensive up front to create, to maintain. And so water is just easier because, hey, we have great access to it. Let's go to Kansas. We'll just tap into their aquifer. This is what people need to understand. There is truly no such thing as a closed loop system when water is involved at all. And so then what I've been hearing them say out here to you guys in Kansas, some of the feedback I've gotten is, oh, don't worry, we'll use part water. Let's just be flexible on that. We'll use partial air cooling, partial water. No, it doesn't work that way. The only way you can air cool a system is if it's a small micro system. In addition, and these are hyperscale systems they're building out here, that won't work. In addition, they take the air, the ambient air for cooling. Well, how hot is it here in Kansas in the summer?
It gets hot.
Yeah, you're going to use 100-degree air to cool your systems. That is not going to work.
And, and it generates more heat.
Yes, and then they need increased HVAC systems, lots more fans. And so then you add to what Kristen talked to you about the tonal noise, and with these systems clustered all around, pinging off of each other. And I mean, we just look at this cumulative exposure like, in our brains, they're kind of like, this is so dangerous.
There's so many factors in this that are terrible.
Yes, terrible.
The noise, the water, the light, everything.
If they get away with what they're attempting to do, these systems are all built, y'all will be leaving. Trust me. You won't be able to live here.
Yeah.
That's
I
what
think
we
I'm going
need
to start
people to
carrying around
understand.
I'm a huge football fan, and I've got these like little flags. I'm going to bring like a red penalty flag when I go to these presentations and go, challenge flag.
False.
That's what we
can
need
you
to
fact
do.
check
And
that
then
live?
every time they lie about the noise, I throw my yellow.
That's exactly what we need to do. Lie.
Well, it's just
Hold
so
up.
important for you guys to have conversations with dummies like me that don't know anything about this stuff, because it's opening my eyes and it's opening everybody's eyes to like, wow, this isn't just a warehouse building
No, this
getting
is
set
not
up over
good.
here.
Right.
This is something that's going to destroy our communities.
Yes.
Our small little farming communities that people love. I mean, property values are high out here right now because people want to get out of the city a little bit, but close enough that they can still
Right.
access all of the things there, and that's going to be gone.
And one
Right.
thing is because we had meetings and people demand studies and all this data, and we try to explain this is a brand new exposure on the scale. The data about tonal noise exists. The data about the dioxins from the diesel generators exists. Everything we've discussed already exists. But now we have to translate and calculate at this level. And again, 24/7 exposure, consider the surroundings, what type of soil for things going further with the noise. So what we have to remember is we have a duty, we have agencies that exist in this country to protect human and environmental health. Our profession falls under public health, under total worker health, and community public health. So I tell people administratively stand up for yourself and ask your local public health departments, where are you? You know, they're quick to yell at people for small things on their land and communities, but this affects everybody. So my question is, where are the agencies designed to protect us? Because people ask us that. Well, if you're correct, where's OSHA? Where's the EPA?
Yeah. We'd like to
Well,
know
they
the
answer.
same
They
thing.
answer to the federal government. You know, this, regardless of politics, this is being pushed right now by the federal government.
Yep. And it's all happening so fast.
Yes. Yes,
So
it
that
is.
brings me to like the bubble. They call it the AI bubble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have billions. I mean, do you even know how much money is being invested in AI total right now in our country? It's got to be hundreds of
I don't
billions.
have
I
Right.
don't know
For that,
collectively,
but-
but I know one contract I mentioned earlier is $500 billion.
500 billion with a B.
Yeah.
I mean,
One contract.
how are
About that.
what happens when this doesn't give them the return they're looking for?
Well, this is exactly what I've been saying, and I've said this to Kristen, like, this AI bubble is going to burst. This, I mean,
In my mind,
The
it
Beanie
has
Baby
to.
craze
It
ain't got
is.
nothing on this.
right, and
Yeah.
then it's going to be problems because it's almost like what Wall Street is doing, how they're reacting to this, and how it's being hyped up, that we got to win this AI race, we got to beat China, and we know this is not an organic demand. That's not what's happening here. It almost makes me feel like they're almost treating this like futures trading. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is not real.
They're almost just betting on it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is going to be a problem when we, the people, stop this.
It
Because
feels
we
like a
will.
giant pyramid scheme.
Yeah.
You
And-
know?
It does.
But I have no doubt we, the people, will stop this.
It's almost like
We
a
are.
gold rush. I mean, they're seeing land like
Yes,
in
yes.
Kansas. They're seeing these open fields and aquifers, and they just see dollar signs.
And they don't care. They're going to just go exploit it. I said to Kristen, we were driving last night, and I said, it is shocking to me because I feel like they are just raping the land. They are exploiting the resources here. But the problem is that people need to realize this damage is irreversible. If you guys allow them to come in and just rape the land and exploit your resources, it's game over for Kansas agriculture. It's game over for Kansas livestock. And I mean, this is very serious
Yeah.
and very real.
That's very scary.
Yep,
It's terrifying, actually, especially for people that have grown
it
up
is.
out here.
It is.
And we drove yesterday, and when I see these proposed within so many nautical miles of a school, you know, I just think about, because those vulnerable populations are children, expectant mothers, the chronically ill, and the elderly, and people with pre-existing conditions. I guess a great example is, I don't know if you know anyone in your life, but I am highly impacted by barometric pressure changes. I'm almost out for 2 days. I can't even open my right eye. This nerve right here is highly compressed because tonal noise actually like causes pressure on the body. That's where the stress begins. So people who already suffer from barometric pressure issues, you know, like elderly people are like, my knees hurt when it rains.
Right.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Because just
Definitely.
because you can't see it does not mean it's a hazard. And I just have to say this also, when people ask about the studies and is it true, where there is a standard or a law about this, there is a hazard. But where there's a hazard, there's not always a standard because technology changes and we have new hazards and they must be properly assessed. You have to have baseline data and nobody's doing this. They should be doing environmental impact studies and I have no idea how they're skirting around this.
That's a good point because that's legally required for every commercial, industrial, real estate transaction. They have to have those environmental studies for these types of industries. That's already a law, and nobody is doing it. That's how we stopped the Chinese battery plant from coming into Michigan. One of the angles we used was Kristen and I looked at it and said, where's the environmental impact studies on this? You have a very sensitive waterway right here that feeds the Great Lakes Basin, and you have a lithium battery plant coming in here. Hello, huge red flag.
How are they
And
getting away with
didn't.
that?
They didn't. That company backed away. I don't know how they're getting away with it, except that the EPA and the local state EPA agencies are turning a blind eye. And your local communities, like counties. I said to one of your county commissioners yesterday, I said, require that they show you the environmental impact study before you allow it to proceed in your county, and they won't be able to pass it, so they'll just go somewhere else. They're not being required to do it at the state level because nobody's making them do it. So at the local county, you write that into your requirements, they'll just go somewhere else because they know damn well they're not doing the studies and they know damn well they can't pass that
So
study.
that's one way to roadblock it.
Yes.
Is to require them to provide these studies. They'll say, nah.
Yeah.
Go
They're already legally required. So just
But why
ask
are-
them to send it to you.
If they're legally so they're legally required to have them, but they're not legally required to show them where
They're just
in the
not doing
counties
them.
they're at?
Nobody is enforcing it. Nobody's asking for it because remember, these billion-dollar corporations are in bed with government agencies and utility companies. I mean, that's a whole animal. Utility companies are a whole animal in themselves. And then they're going secretly to our elected representatives. So everybody's turning a blind eye. Everybody's just looking away.
So corrupt.
You can look away, but you're going to feel it.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly. It's
crazy.
very corrupt. So we're coming back saying, here's what's legally required that they're not doing and why. So if you want to stop it and put up a roadblock, just ask them to send you the required documents.
Yeah. Why, like our county commissioner specifically, what is the incentive there for them to approve these, to let them build?
Go along. They just go along with their colleagues because,
Just to not look stupid, basically?
well, it's the promised,
Yeah.
we're bringing jobs. No, you're not. You have the construction jobs, which, by the way, during that construction, it's a whole myriad of other hazards created of noise and the dust and the PM 2.5. That's particulate matter that is equal to or less than 2.5 microns. And that when we say PM 2.5, that means it gets inhaled into the deep lung. So you have all these issues and they think they're bringing in money and it's like, It's like keep up with the Joneses, that old expression. But it's like, where's the benefit? It's just to say,
Yeah.
like, yeah, we did it for our community.
They think they're missing out.
We're killing our people. It's all good.
It's all cool. We want to be cool too. Didn't that kind of come out to you yesterday when we were talking to the commissioners that, but we have to participate in this. We don't want to miss out. That's why I said in the beginning, this is the very misleading push that is coming from those who are trying to sell these things. Like, listen, you don't want your county to miss out on these tax revenues. You better jump on this. This is ground level right now. This is your opportunity. And they're feeling that, and they don't know any different. So they think, well, this county over here is doing them, and this county, we got to jump on that bandwagon too. We don't want to miss out on it. But really, it's just totally a false and misleading narrative.
I just don't see how, if they knew this information that you guys are telling me today, how anybody could be agreeing to go along with this.
We agree.
Because they don't know. And we look, because we're loud but small. Where's the rest of the people in our profession? There's a couple. But you have to think about that. I just told you, we have these agencies. Well, if those women were right, where are they? Well, we went up and stood against the COVID mandates, and we were correct, and watched them all abandon their own protocols. And guess what? You could have believed us then, but you remember us now, because now everyone admits we told you masks didn't work. You needed engineering controls because this is basic industrial hygiene. So we now have the ethics and integrity and the reputation that we tell the truth.
And the whole track record is there.
So what I'm trying to tell you is they are being told by the people creating this that we're crazy. But please tell me how we benefit from this. Hit pieces?
I mean, there's more and more videos that I'm seeing on TikTok and Reels alone of people that live near these data centers.
Yes.
That's evidence
Yes,
of what we're
you
saying.
make a great
Exactly.
point.
Yeah.
It's already happening. So, you
Yeah.
know this from the military after action reports. We have the data. You see people who can't flush their toilets. You see people having to move in the basement. You see people whose children are exhibiting massive irritability, behavioral changes because the reading comprehension's going down because they're living in that flight or fight mode. Family pets and dogs are depressed and like acting weird, erratic behavior.
This reminds me a lot. Have you ever heard of Pitcher, Oklahoma?
Yes, we were talking about that yesterday. I hadn't before I met you guys and I came here, but that was a really interesting conversation to be made aware of.
Very interesting. So just for people that don't know, it's a community up in northeastern Oklahoma, and there's massive piles of what they call chat, and it looks like white rock all over the place. They were mining minerals there back in the early 1900s, and it became a big, thriving town. Well, all of a sudden in the 60s and 70s, they started showing signs like developmental issues, reading issues. Kids were being more depressed and worse in school. And so there was a lot of environmentalists that were out there telling them there's lead in your water. You guys are mining this stuff. It's getting into your water supply. It's destroying your community. It's making your IQs lower. Well, for the longest time, they just didn't care. They thought it was a bunch of nonsense. And so they let this continue, and eventually it's a total ghost town now. Eventually, the federal government had to step in and kick these people off of this land because it was so toxic.
And I always remind people, I was saying this yesterday, there was a time where Camel was the brand of cigarettes from doctors.
That's
and
right.
we used to x-ray pregnant women, and we used to spray DDT on children.
Right.
And,
We put
slips me
asbestos in
what
everything.
they spray our military uniforms to keep the ticks away. There are things that are carcinogenic, and they disrupt your respiratory systems, your reproductive systems. It's neurodegenerative. Asbestos was used everywhere. Now, her and I are both teach about asbestos and abatement and lead. So we do things throughout history where, unfortunately, after it's occurred, we're like, oh, we have to now course correct.
Right.
That's why we're sounding the alarm, because we already know, and they know that we know, but they're trying to brainwash the public as benefactors in this move, and it's completely false.
Just to make some money in the meantime.
Right. It's all about being proactive. Like I said in the beginning, we are trying to be proactive and stop these before we all find ourselves in a very dangerous, scary, reactive position, because these are uncharted waters, but we can see what's coming. We called it in East Palestine, Ohio when we were there. We were there right after the train derailment, and we got footage of the EPA doing improper sampling and all of this kind of thing, and we wanted to see it for ourselves. And so we interviewed the townspeople. We saw how they were doing sampling, and we said, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen in this town. and now it's happening.
Yeah.
Cancer clusters, neurological disorders, birth
Breast
defects.
cancer in men and women.
I mean, it is exactly what we said was going to happen because we were looking at the hazard exposures. It happened. And so this is what we're seeing coming here. And we're just trying to educate as many people as we can proactively so you guys don't find yourself in that situation.
Yeah, people just want to put their blinders on or stick their head in the sand and
Yeah.
just pretend like, oh, it's probably not going to affect
And
me.
it's
Right.
cognitive dissonance. It's like people don't want to believe that because there's so many that exist, and they're like, well, if they were that bad, they'd be taken down. Well, what's happening is it's real, whether or not you want to believe it. They're having to go back and they're having to like put material around the fans to make it like they're going and back and course correcting when it should have been implemented in the design. And like that's what we said is that there's better technology and they can have a smaller footprint and achieve the same goal.
Let's figure out how to
Yeah.
do it the right way.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Listen, let's just do this responsibly. Let's slow our roll and let's get this right.
Mm-hmm.
How difficult is that?
Yeah.
But then what we are up against is we're bumping up against those globalists, the global technology companies, the government agencies, big tech. I mean, all of them that are all in bed together, the utility companies. And so that's what we're bumping up against. That's why it makes perfect sense what we're saying, but we're having a hard time with it because of who we're bumping up against.
Yeah.
So
Well, let's talk about that real quick. If you want to get a little conspiratorial,
Let's do it. Let me sit up straight for this one.
is there do you guys see some grand conspiracy behind all these AI data centers and
You mean the mass surveillance centers?
mass surveillance centers as well?
Yes, we
Making us
do.
a digital hub?
Your Fourth Amendment it doesn't exist anymore, sir.
Well, that's kind of been proven over time already, hasn't it?
yeah.
You can thank former Congressman Mike Rogers, who's trying to run for Senate in Michigan now. He's afraid of me.
He should be. No, you're right. That is what this is all about because we said in the beginning of this is not about the organic need for more computational output. We don't need what we're building right now with these data centers. We don't need that.
It doesn't
for
make
AI.
sense.
No, we don't. Anybody that works in technology or cyber technology or in that field will tell you that. So what are these data centers really about? Well, let's step back and let's look at China. What has China done? They have put these data centers all over their country. They've been doing it for years. And how does China operate? They surveil every single citizen. They have got them all on their digital crypto system, their digital currency. All of it is tied to their health, their financials, their movement, their work. Everything is tied together. And those massive data centers collect all that information about every single individual. And because of the system that they have put in place, the total surveillance system they have put in place for total compliance of every citizen, all they have to do is just say, you went here and you weren't supposed to, boom, you're cut off from your bank account.
Oh,
They
man.
control everybody with that. So these data centers are not producing computational output, they're collecting and storing information
Exactly.
on every individual in the United States, every text you send, every phone call you make. And the goal is digital currency. If it's all tied to our currency and it's all digital and our health, like, were you a good citizen? Did you get your jibby jab?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, you didn't? Oh, then it's all tied together. They
It's
can cut
like
it.
social credit system, basically. Like if
Totally social
No
credit
food
system.
for you, must eat the
Oh.
bugs.
Right. That's
so
exactly
dystopian
what,
and scary.
It sounds conspiratorial, but it is a conspiracy reality. In reality, this is happening. It's already happened in China. Just go on the World Economic Forum website and look at their plans. They have it all laid out. They don't even hide it. They say this is what we want to do.
Well,
they
that's
have
the thing,
targeted
too.
Kansas. They've actually said Kansas is the perfect blueprint for us.
That's what I was going to
start.
get into. The conspiracy about making Kansas a digital hub for the world, for this
Yes.
globalist vision of this dystopian world where all of your
It's-
texts and emails and everything, right? They don't
all
need to have
stored.
somebody monitoring that stuff anymore.
That's right.
It's just stored away, and then
Right.
the AI can search it if they were to say, oh, Jesse Krause, let's see what he said in the past. Let's scan for this word. Let's scan for this topic.
Right.
AI searches through, bam, there it is.
And what's coming is if you say it in real time, it will be responded to. It'll flag in real time.
See, that's freaky.
That's what's coming. That's not a conspiracy. That's what the Agenda 2030 is all about. It's very public. They're not hiding it.
And why doesn't anybody know about this?
A lot of people know about this.
The average Joe, though, that's just hanging out,
Because most people don't pay attention. They're busy raising their families.
So there's a real plan in
this-
place, you're telling me, to have global surveillance in real time like that?
Yes, yes.
Where AI will actively search what we say, what we do, and give that to the authorities, and they...
Yes. And that's why there's a push for digital currency at the same time. That's why there's a push for our health to have health IDs. I just read something about Bill Gates, go figure, Bill Gates factors into all this, putting out there that the need for digital currency. He's pushing that at the same time he's pushing everything else, because it's going to come together like this. And so that's why we have to stop it. It's really a beast system, and we have to stop it. We have to, as individual citizens, because who's the government in the United States, right? We the people. And so while we still can say something, and while we can still stand up and say, no, not in my community, we had better.
While we still have a voice
While we
before
still
it gets
can.
taken away.
That's exactly right.
My personal opinion on the conspiratorial side of this is that, when we first had the internet, it allowed people to really start to connect all over the world. And, I always say we outnumber the sociopaths. So the fact that we can organize administratively and share information and bust through the false narratives and the brainwashing that I think our media does for an agenda, they're like, ooh, Pandora's box, we got to find a way to course correct. Now we have to use this tool to manipulate people. Like Tammy said, it's a control tactic.
Yeah, it's teaching compliance, and it's also pushing random issues that nobody really cares about, that people fight over all the time when all of this stuff is happening behind the scenes.
Right.
They'll throw out some random celebrity feud or something that really isn't a big deal. It's a social issue. Fuel the fire on both sides. Aliens, yeah.
Yeah, so watch out if we put these in outer space. You might lose all your memes if the aliens attack our data centers. The meme war has ended, yeah.
Right.
But AI is used for actually good things. I'll just share a personal story. You can probably see this giant scar on my foot. So I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I know you can't tell looking at me, but I do have a lot of issues I struggle with. And I had multiple torn tendons in my foot. And do you know what drop foot is? It's when you're sitting here and your foot just goes bloop and you can't lift it up. I was with Tammy, I was like, something's wrong. And I'd already had an MRI, so I already knew I was gonna have surgery on my calf, my Achilles, my foot. And I took my MRI and I threw it into AI, and it had found that I had a severe tear in my tibialis tendon.
Oh, really?
So the day of surgery, I told my surgeon, I said, this is going to sound crazy. And I told him the story. He goes, nope, I believe you. Sign here. I'll go and explore. In my surgery, he goes, it was so severe. He goes, it was the worst tear out of all of it. The radiologist missed it.
So the AI caught it and the doctors missed it.
Yeah. So he actually said they have a QA/QC with AI in radiology. We should ask, we're meeting with a gentleman for dinner this week that's helped with your community, and I believe he's an interventional diagnostic radiologist. We should ask him about that.
So do you think that's a threat to all doctors out there then, if AI is able to
I
diagnose?
don't think they can take over. I think it's a coupled system. I think it's good to have, I know people that use it to check their homework. It's like a second set of eyes.
Well, lab results.
Like a peer review.
I'm also in the Air Force, and so I have the great government health care that we all love.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's quicker just to throw my lab results into an AI chatbot, and it'll read back all of my issues that I have.
It's like, Jesse, your testosterone's low.
Your liver enzymes are a little high.
You're going to lose your mustache.
No,
That'd be a bummer.
It can be very complimentary and helpful, but it is a threat to all of our industries.
Yeah.
There are entire industries that are going to go away.
Yep.
I mean, my son he is studying architectural engineering and design. Well, architects are going to go away. I'm sorry, we're not going to need architects. So we have steered him, go towards the construction management and design side, because you're going to have the manager longer.
You're still going to need oversight from a human.
Right. Whereas, honestly, truly, like an architectural degree, that's so easy to replace with AI these days.
Yeah.
And he's already seeing that, and he's concerned about his future before he even finishes his college degree. So he's kind of pivoting over to the CM side, the design build side within the construction world, because that's not going to go away. So there are certain industries that are going to completely go away. Surveying. I mean, I've worked with surveying students in the construction management programs I've worked in, and that whole industry is going to go away.
I think it will take a while, though, because I actually listened to an interview with somebody explaining how AI is still, it's not just the use of data centers isn't just like you saying, create me an image of this. It's that it's actually people are going in and training AI. So more than half right now of the use is training the AI, because AI can be wrong.
It's
Oh,
also
yeah.
training itself, though.
It is.
ChatGPT version
It is.
3.5 or whatever the newest one is was written by the previous version of itself,
Yeah.
which is kind of freaky if you
Yes.
think
So
about it.
I'll
I've
tell you.
heard some freaky things about it. Yeah.
I'll tell you a story that just happened to me. Like I said, I'm not anti-AI. I use it to track my macros. And I just went on a cruise, so I kind of went off, And I came back and I said, I'm going to be on the road this week to go to Kansas. I'm not going to be tracking my macros, but, asking it a question. And it actually said, this conversation has been flagged for mental health reasons. It sounds like you may be experiencing an unhealthy relationship with food. Here are contacts for mental health professionals and professional dietitians. And I literally cussed at the AI and said, what what's wrong with you? I'm literally trying to track my macros.
You can't say that to me.
I'm like, I'm trying to get my body back.
I'm just trying to
And
lose
then
weight.
it goes, I'm sorry, you're right. It called me a zesty bestie. And it said, I'm so sorry I offended you. That was really inappropriate. And that was Claude. And I was like, boop, because
Oh
I used to
my
use
gosh.
ChatGPT, but I don't like Sam Altman, and I only use it to track my macros, my protein and carb intake. So I went to Claude because it's more freedom-minded, and it actually made me just go, I don't even know if I want to use it for this anymore,
Wow.
because
Turn it
this was
off.
weird. Like, what do you mean you're gonna put me on a 5150 because I ate a Hostess at 12 and I told you for
Well, remind me not to
integrity.
talk to it about my
Right.
alcohol consumption. then.
Exactly. Right.
Like, sir, here's your AA group.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm telling you. We're not against it, but I do use it for simple things because, my Fitness Pal is more obsolete now because you can just, and
It's a very
honestly,
useful tool. I mean, if you
yeah,
treat it as a tool.
it's diagnosed
Right,
medical
right.
issues in people. I've seen it on TikTok. People who have been like, I've been gaslit by my doctors. I think it's all in my head. And they go and they ask about this. They run a test and they're like, yeah, you're correct. So it does have, you have to people understand that AI is just grabbing all this information from all these different resources at a faster speed. It's not like it's just some random person on the other end. So it does have its purpose, but like I tell my daughter, you need to find a profession that can't be replaced by AI.
Yeah. Coding is one that's kind of scary too. I have a friend that is a software engineer. It's something that I studied too and dabbled in a little bit. And now, I mean, if you want to write code or a script for an app or something, I mean, AI can do that in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
And then you can go back through and check syntax errors.
And I do want to
Yeah.
point out, because we're not going to sit here and lie to you, we're not hypocrites because we use AI for little things. Like we told you, data centers are needed for AI, but some data centers are smaller, and we do not need the amount of data centers that they're trying to roll out. What we have now, people are just fine. That's what I'm trying to explain to you, is that just because you use it for certain things doesn't make you a hypocrite. You can avoid it all you want. Like, there's still people that don't use social media, but I'm sorry, using social media and you own a small business, you not being on it is hurting you. So I always say Amazon and unnecessary evil, So my
it's
point
a
is,
misconception that you are a hypocrite just
Yeah.
because you use AI. I mean, a lot
Yeah.
of people have that misconception, like, well, they probably use ChatGPT just like I do. Right, but
Yeah.
it's
We never said we don't. That's
well,
not,
we
that's
were
not our
talking
message.
before this interview, like I said, calling people hypocrites for, tracking your food intake or different things is like telling someone that they're a hypocrite because they're against certain form of industrial farming instead of regenerative farming and saying, well, you eat food.
exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
that's not our message.
semantics.
Our message just is we need to slow our roll. We need to look at this. We need to do an exhaustive study about really seriously considering the human and environmental health impacts and how do we then best and most effectively reduce those. That's it. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That sounds great. Spreading the word, too, is the most important thing. The more people know about this and the
Yes.
scope of these things,
Yep.
the more we can fight it and the more leverage we have to tell them to get out of our communities and
Right.
go somewhere else.
And for us,
Right.
there's a whole different aspect, like we've been here a couple days and I'm so impressed by the sense of community here. I'm like, more people to
Yeah.
send Christmas cards.
Yeah.
We make friends.
true.
We build friendships and relationships. We have a whole crew back in North Dakota that we helped during COVID.
Yeah.
And it's just great because they're unlikely bedfellows, and it's not political. Like, I don't even know
Right.
if people are Democrats or Republicans that we
Right.
talked to yesterday. We talked to some commissioners because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
We do have such a great sense of community out here where I grew up and still live, and that's why it's so important to spread the word, and I'm so thankful for you for putting up the good fight and for coming out here and talking to us, doing all you're doing, symposium, talking to our commissioners. I think
Yeah.
you're doing God's work. I think
It's
that
important. We
yeah.
do too.
Yeah.
So thank you for using your podcast platform to help get the word out to your community, right? And really your state and the world. It can, because of AI and technology, it can go global, right? So
You can, yeah.
platforms like this, it's really important to use your voice.
I agree, because you're obviously talking to people at the legislative level and you're talking to commissioners, you're talking to technical experts, but it's important, I think, for somebody like me. I'm just an average guy that's just, I do a podcast for fun. But it's important for people that are just sitting at home that have these same questions, like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Right.
What's the deal with this?
Right.
For you to explain that to me in detail, like, I'm very grateful for that. So,
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
we always say, you having us on your podcast, we're appreciative because a couple people take this. Not that a couple people are watching, but if just a couple people take this and make it their fight, their little brush fires, and it's just sparking a huge wildfire of information. And our whole goal, yes, we meet with legislative staff and politicians, but we really speak to community members. Our goal is to educate, activate, and get those people engaged to stand up in an administrative manner.
exactly. And that's ultimately who's going to influence this the most.
Right, and then they can recall
Other
these people.
Right.
That's
if
right.
they don't listen. They don't
Well.
listen to their constituents. We can help with that.
Okay, well, I think we're about to wrap up here, unless you guys have more topics you want to touch on or any last words you want to say, or is there anything that we missed?
I think we've pretty much covered it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
It's just really important for people listening to this. I guess the last thing I'll say is it's really important to the people listening to this and realizing what's happening to get involved. Go to your local planning, zoning board meetings, talk with your local officials, your local boards, get involved with the county commission meetings, because honestly, like I said in the beginning, we the people are the government in the United States. And if we do not stop this, nobody is coming to save us. It's up to us. So get involved. And there's no excuse. If you're not going to get involved, you cannot complain.
And I'll just tell people, if you're somebody who, like I live in Michigan, so they're really coming after the Great Lakes, I tell people the best thing to do is maybe like once a month. Every state is different where they track this information. There's different state entities. Look up if anyone has filed for diesel generator air permits. Even before they do anything, they first see if they can get those air permits approved, because it's called different tier reporting environmental. So if they're locked down, they're like, see ya, we're going to a different state, different area. So keep, once a month, go on there and look. Has a corporation applied for a diesel generator air permit?
And that's the way to catch them before
Yep.
they...
That's the
You
first
get ahead of
clue.
them.
They're coming in.
First clue
They're
they're coming
trying.
in.
They're looking.
Those corporations hate that I say that.
Well, good. Let's spread it.
Sorry,
Exactly.
not sorry.
Okay. Thank you so much for the conversation, for all of the insight on this. Thank you for putting up the good fight, for all that you do for the people of this country and this state and this county. I really appreciate it. Can you just tell people again what your names are and where they can find you, and
Sure.
any social media that you have that you might want them to go to?
Yeah, I try to stay. I don't do a lot with social media, but again, Tammy Clark, industrial hygienist, occupational and environmental health and safety professional. I live basically out of a suitcase between Florida and Michigan.
Very true.
I am on Facebook. My public figure page is Tammy, just the middle initial K and Clark. It's tied to my Instagram. I don't do X. I've been canceled off of LinkedIn. I've been so censored and shadow banned. I get no traction on Twitter.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. You can't say the things that we say and not have censorship issues. So
That's how you know you're doing something right.
that's right. So I don't really waste too much time with all the things. Kristen's more of the all the things kind of girl.
Yeah.
So you can follow her on the TikTok and X and all that.
Yeah, so I'm Kristen Meghan Kelly. Just so you know, Kristen Meghan is my first name. So that's usually what my handle is. On Facebook, it's Kristen Meghan Kelly. Every other platform, it's Kristen Meghan. I'm more active on this issue on X and TikTok, but TikTok, it's Kristen Meghan TV. I don't know why, but I have about 20 impersonation accounts on TikTok. So it's the one that has like 170,000 followers, because people rip my information, and it's annoying because I don't like
See,
people
that's
to
why I
steal my
don't.
content.
That's why I don't bother with it.
They try to smear you. They try to make
Yeah.
a fake profile and then
Exactly.
say some
Right.
crazy
So,
stuff.
but I do use the socials because I truly believe that Gen Z and Gen Z and Gen A are the ones that are going to fight for us when we're all in our nursing homes being poisoned by the tonal noise. So,
I think the Amish were onto something.
yeah.
You know, the more I look into
Yeah.
it, I'm like, those
Right?
people are just out there chilling. They don't take vaccines. They don't care about any of that stuff.
And they're the
With their
healthiest
bowl
bunch.
haircuts, I love it, you
Yeah.
know?
Crazy hair, but super healthy people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you two so much again. I really appreciate you coming on here, and thank you for putting up the fight. And thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap.